Well, speaking of Neil Young, now Neil Young, he cares about people, which is why
Science too.
and science, which is why he took his music off of. First of all, he sold it for $150 million to a private equity firm called Blackstone, which is now destroying the Amazon and raping poor people. So he doesn't care about that shit. He's not protesting that his music is making more money for those people. He wants you to, in fact, he wants you to get off Spotify and go over to Amazon and get your music at Amazon because you know how Jeff Bezos and Amazon love workers. So anyway, so I'm saying these things so you know Neil Young is a hypocrite and a fame-chasing clout piece of shit. And by the way, Neil Young's long record of spreading scientific misinformation. Where is this? This is from a Clinton rag, the Daily Beast. Why would they print this in the Daily Beast, you think, Steph? I don't know why.
I don't know.
In keeping with his career-long tradition of performative activism. Who wrote this?
This guy must not like him.
Louis Anslow.
Louis Anslow. This was published January 25th. Okay. I wonder what happened. I bet Neil Young denied him an autograph at some point. Why would they do this? In keeping with his career-long tradition of performative activism, Neil Young demanded in a sincere deleted open letter on his website that Spotify, since deleted.
What?
Why would he delete that letter?
You can always still find it.
It's all I know. In an open letter on his website, that Spotify either remove his music or Joe Rogan's podcast from its service in his name, quelling COVID-19 vaccine misinformation. For his stance, Young is basking in praise as a principled musician, willing to sacrifice his own streaming revenue in the name of science, technological progress, and public health. This is the same Neil Young who in 2015 released an entire album, The Monsanto Years, that's wall-to-wall songs from an anti-biotechnology point of view. Young's anti-GMO rhetoric helped fuel a narrative that made it easy to spread fear and distrust about COVID vaccines, most of which use novel biotechnology methods and some of which use genetic engineering. A collective amnesia has set in amongst progressives regarding the left's past pandering to the anti-biotechnology movement. Reactionary Luddism, especially around biotechnology, was both politically correct and convenient for progressive celebrity activists, but that was in the before times. The anti-GMO movement, which rose to prominence in the mid-90s and 2000s, attained a key legislative win in 2014 when Vermont mandated GMO labeling of food. Activists insisted it was vital information for consumers to make informed choices, despite wide scientific agreement that they're safe for consumption. In fact, not only were GMOs not a threat to human health, they've been a boon to it, much like the insulin that has kept Neil Young alive for most of his life. Vitamin A-enriched golden rice, for example, could have saved millions of lives and helped prevent child blindness were it not stymied by anti-GMO activists. The new Vermont law threatened to be a pointless and impractical nightmare for food manufacturers, so trade groups sued the state. But with big business fighting the mandate, its repeal was easily framed by the anti-GMO movement as an affront to consumer safety and democracy. This framing was eagerly adopted by progressive politicians and amplified by the mainstream media. Kurt?
Oh, I see why he made this article. This is a guy that was he's with the GMO
He's
lobby,
pro-GMO.
and he's mad about that.
But
all
I
they
like
do is
it.
say you have to, I like it.
I
That's
like
great.
it, though. It's a good article. I like it.
It is.
All right. As the case garnered coverage, the anti-GMO crowd was re-energized once more, and Neil seized the moment, releasing the Monsanto Years and embarking on a tour of the same name. At one pre-show press conference accompanied by Vermont's then Democratic Governor Peter Shumlin, Neil Young pledged $100,000 to the legal case defending the GMO labeling law. Young's Monsanto album release and media tour doubled as activism. Amplifying misinformation about GMOs to large mainstream audiences, he released a short anti-GMO documentary aptly named Seeding Fear. Most notably, and ridiculously, was an appearance on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. That sentence doesn't make sense to me. Most notably and ridiculously was an appearance on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. I don't know what that means. Colbert asked Young about the scientific evidence showing GMOs were safe. But Young dismissed it out of hand, retorting, "That must be Monsanto's study that you didn't notice the terrible diseases and all of the things that are happening." Then he pivoted to citing overzealous anti-GMO regulations in the EU as if it was scientific proof of anything.
Wow.
The cringy bit concluded when a man dressed as a GMO corn cob appeared, asking Young, "I was born this way. Why do you have to label me?" Young replied, "I don't normally like to label things, but you're so dangerous, and you're dangerous to me personally and my family and the rest of the planet." Eventually, the corn grew so angry it exploded in a shower of popcorn, which Young implored Colbert not to touch.
What?
Amplified by Young, the anti-biotechnology movement helped lay the foundations of the anti-COVID vaccine movement today, giving it an arsenal of misinformation to be repurposed, mainstream articles to be referenced, and misguided laws to be held up as proof of inherent dangers posed by safe technologies. COVID vaccines containing a genetically engineered virus were framed by skeptics as risky, simply by pointing to the way regulators and media outlets had treated GMOs, often at the behest of radical activists like Neil Young. One of the main arguments in favor of GMO labeling served as a precedent for arguments against vaccine mandates. The science says they're safe, but people should be able to choose for themselves, which implies that they might, in fact, not be safe.
I mean, no. All right.
The current mainstream narrative is that the ignorant opposition to modernity and biotechnology is strictly a phenomenon of the populist right, amplified by the new corporate technological boogeyman, big tech and social media. The populist right, for its part, is happily adopting this narrative, but technological Luddism knows no party. Neil Young's got a legitimate case in criticizing Spotify for amplifying Joe Rogan's biotech misinformation, but first he should atone for his own role in seeding COVID vaccine skepticism. So there you
Wow.
go.
I love that article.
I guess Neil Young gets to choose which science he likes when he gets to follow it and what fringe science he wants to push. But when someone else does the same thing, tries to have the same freedom and liberty that Neil Young exercises, they're bad people and they should be censored.
Well, you know, first of all, it probably depends on whoever Neil Young is banging. That probably informs most of what he thinks about stuff. That's like a girlfriend or wife who
Yes.
cares about that kind of attitude, and he knows nothing. I love this guy because I remember that labeling thing, and I remember on Bill Maher watching the guy who wears a leather jacket, that libertarian guy, and he was like, "Why can't there just be a label so people know?" And I don't know if that guy said, but somebody goes, "Well, because then people won't buy it." And I was like, "Is this?" So this guy's taking that like, "Yeah, see, people were afraid of our thing because you're like Monsanto has a terrible reputation." I'm not even afraid of GMO food to the degree that somebody is, but you can't blame people for not trusting Monsanto because they have a terrible rep. And that's hilarious. That's a great point. It was super cool. I remember this. Like not long ago, all these people that are like put people in concentration camps if they're unvaxxed were, "I'm not, GMOs are bad." I guess including Colbert with his popcorn sketch for GMO. That's amazing. That's why they think everyone's stupid, because the actors and celebrities they know literally are stupid. And I think they mistake it. Oh, the truckers must be stupid as well, because Neil Young's obviously stupid.
So Neil Young, we have now revealed, I think, 50 ways to Sunday how he's a complete piece of shit, lying, hypocritical virus on this culture. Turns out that's what Neil Young is right now. He's a pro-censorship virus on this country. And I wish there was a vaccine for him that we could make us immune to him. Anything you want to say, Kurt, besides? No?
I mean, I felt pretty impervious to him for.
Yeah.
I wasn't a big. I mean, I'm
well,
not
look,
against
there's a
him,
lot of
like,
people who
whatever.
aren't. Look at all the people who caught Neil Young's disease.
Where they start to look like an old lady once they hit a certain age.
No, where they start to advocate for authoritarianism in the guise of helping people.
Because he lives under the authoritarianism of Daryl Hannah, who's
That's right.
telling him what he thinks.
That's
So what's the problem?
Hey, we're doing live stand-up shows in Los Angeles, February 5th, February 12th, February 18th, February 20th, we're in Philadelphia, and then February 26th, back here in Los Angeles in Studio City at our 60-seat theater. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for all tickets, and while you're there, become a premium member, get access to all our premium content.